Quick intro to myself. My name's Kris Bradley. I own a business called NameSpark. It's in its fourth year, coming up on the fourth year, I should say. Time flies. Basically, what we specialize is in social media marketing, social media advertising. We do some email marketing, and of course, marketing consultation as a whole, being able to come into a small business, a nonprofit, and just being able to take a look at what are you doing and how are you spending your marketing dollars, and how can we possibly maybe take those dollars and shift them and maybe get you a better return on your investment, but also just understanding that the digital advertising, digital marketing world is very complex, as you all know. So we try to help come in and provide a focus, a strategic focus on what you should be doing based on what your business does, based on what's available out there, based on how many advertising dollars you have. I have 13 plus years of marketing experience. Before I started my own business, I worked for several ad agencies over the years. One of the things I always like to, two points I like to point out that might age me a little bit in this space, but I was tweeting for small businesses back in 2009 from a business perspective. And when Facebook rolled out the Ads Manager platform, which would have been late 2011, 2012, I immediately jumped in and started experimenting with it, and also setting up ads for small businesses in the Lancaster area. I do have a Master's of Science in Internet Marketing from Full Sail University in Orlando. And I prefer, and NameSpark prefers, to work with small businesses and nonprofits. So I'm going to jump right in here. The first thing I wanted to touch on was the importance of social media in 2020 and beyond. And so there's some points here that I have. One of them is social media is no longer a nice to have, it's a must have. And what I mean by that is, you know, maybe back in the first 5 years of social media, you know, between 2010 and 2015, there was a lot of businesses that were playing around with it, teetering with it, doing a little bit here, a little bit there. There were some businesses who just decided it wasn't for them and they didn't do anything. And, you know, of course, there were some businesses who did, who saw success. There were some businesses who didn't, who could have seen success, but it was kind of just more of like a playground. And a lot of professionals in the business world looked at it as, well, that's a place where you can go and have and communicate with your friends and maybe have some off time. But now that no longer exists. Social media is now a must-have. And the price of business, of doing business, now includes investing in social media marketing. I strongly believe that, you know, my last bullet point there, you wouldn't be here if you didn't see value in social media for your business. Every marketing plan should include social media marketing. And I say that meaning if you're not ready, that's okay. Like if you're just getting started out and you're still working on your website and you're in the process of starting your business, it's okay. But what I really want to say is that, you know, you should be thinking about social media already, and you should be including that in your future marketing plan. So that's why I put get ready. Your customer's perception of you not having a presence on social media in 2020 is the same as not having a website. And I think we all know how that feels. I mean, I still occasionally run into business owners who say, I don't have a website. And I think we could all agree in this room, if anybody ever says that to you, you're like, okay. You know, it's just that initial, really? You don't have a website? Like, it's 2020. The same thing applies with social media presence. You need to at least have a presence somewhere because, and we'll get into more of why in a little bit, but there is that expectation of your customers to be on social media. The coronavirus has spotlighted the importance of social media. I mean, I think it was about 2 weeks into the quarantine, I reached out to all my contractors and we shifted our entire strategy for all of our clients from a social media standpoint. But the one thing I said to them is social media has never been more important than it is right now. And it isn't. I mean, during the quarantine especially, there was really one way to communicate with your customers, and that was through social media. So again, if social media wasn't important in everybody's eyes prior to coronavirus, I think it is now. All right, I just wanted to show this real quick. Again, highlighting the importance of social media. Sometimes the simplest of graphics can tell the best story. And you can see here, based on Pew Research, this is called the Social Media Fact Sheet. I will send out these slides to Catherine so she can distribute to you guys. I do have a link in here to the actual research study that I pulled this from, but you can see, I mean, it's pretty simple, the importance of social media just by looking at this. And even the age groups across the board, even like looking here, they have 65 plus is a little bit lower on the graph. Well, I can tell you through some of the clients that I advertise for, that we do social media ads for, we see a pretty high return from the 65 plus audience. So they're just as important as the top here, which is the 18 to 29. Oh, I'm sorry, I clicked on the link. All right, identifying social media strategy. And I just mentioned it's not as difficult as you may think. So here's some ideas for when you sit down and you want to come up with a strategy. So thinking in terms of like, what do we want to accomplish with our social media, and how are we going to do that? So there's strategy and tactics. The first example I have is building an audience. Just simply, hey, I got a Facebook page, or I have a Facebook and an Instagram account, and it's been up for maybe 3 months, and I have like less than 100 followers. So we want to build an audience. Also increasing engagement for your business. So maybe you have, maybe you've had a Facebook and an Instagram account for 6 months, but and you've been posting pretty consistently, but you're not getting any engagement. So the strategy is we want to increase the engagement. So maybe it's just sitting down and coming up with a content plan, a strategic content plan as to what content do we need to put up there to increase our engagement. Maybe it's just telling your business story. Maybe you have an exceptional story to tell, and your whole use of social media for the next 6 months to 12 months is just telling that story. It could be promoting a big event. I have an example a little bit later on in one of the slides of what that is, but it could be just simply, I recently started working with the One World Festival, and some of you may be familiar with One World Festival, some may not. It was a festival that was supposed to happen on August 1st at Millersville University, celebrating the diversity of Lancaster County. We had a full social media team dedicated to just that event. Now it has since been postponed till next year, and we've since put everything on hold, but that's an example of promoting a big event. Growing brand recognition, brand awareness, guys, it's important. Unfortunately, there are some marketers out there who kind of downplay brand awareness. Don't let them. When you're new on the market and you need to get out there and you need to create some a level of understanding and education with the potential customers, brand recognition, brand awareness, whatever we want to call it, it's very important. You can promote new services, and you can promote a new location through that brand recognition. Another thing you can do is just simply increase foot traffic. If you have a bricks and mortar store, or I put a practice, I work with a couple healthcare individuals. One is a orthodontist. Maybe we want to increase the foot traffic. I mean, for that particular client, that's the main thing we want to do. We want to increase foot traffic into the door for his practice. Another thing can just be simply educating your audience. Hey, you have something that's a little bit more complex. Think B2B. Like maybe you have this piece of software that's a little bit more complex, and you really you can't sell it without educating them first. Or on the opposite side of the spectrum, you're a nonprofit, and you simply, you want to educate everybody on what it is that you're doing, who benefits from your cause, how the dollars, educate people on how dollars are spent that are donated, all these different things. Produce new leads and boost conversions. This is the one that everybody wants to do right away, but unfortunately that's not always the starting point for social media marketing. If you've got a good foundation laid, you've got a good audience, you've built some engagement, you have people who are clicking through from your social posts to your website, and you've built some brand equity, then producing new leads and boosting conversions can be a great strategy for social media. And then I just put a couple small points at the bottom. Strategies can change. So let's say, for instance, you want to build an audience on social media. First 6 months, you accomplish that goal. Your goal is you want to have 500 Instagram followers and you want to have 1,000 followers or likes on Facebook. You accomplish that. 6 months, okay, bam, that strategy has been accomplished. Let's move on to a new strategy, which is maybe that increasing engagement for your business. You could also have different strategies for different platforms. For instance, maybe your business, you're on Facebook and you want to increase engagement on Facebook. But when you go over to Instagram, you want to be telling your business story through the visual representation that Instagram allows you. So you can have different strategies for different platforms. Which social media platform should your business be present on based on what your business is trying to achieve? I'm going to run through this one pretty quickly because we have quite a few slides, but I did just want to highlight a couple quick things. I have at the very top there, start with one. I would say I don't have any idea. The businesses that are on this call, some of you may have one social media platform, some of you may have three. I don't know where you're at. I just know if you're new to this, the one thing I always caution is don't try to do too much at once, because what you're going to end up doing is doing nothing. Start with one social media platform and work your way out. Decide which one is the most valuable to you right now. Start there. And then you're probably going to look at this list and think, well, that one could be valuable as well. And how can we, and eventually down the road, maybe you hire someone who can handle a new platform. Maybe you hire someone who frees up some of your time so that you can start on a new platform, or maybe you hire a company like NameSpark to help you with that platform. So this is just real quick. Facebook eyeballs. The eyeballs are on Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. Everybody's using it. After coronavirus and all the controversy that we're seeing, I don't know, maybe next year at this time we're looking at different numbers. But as of right now, we definitely, Facebook is usually the first choice for almost all businesses. It's ideal for B2C and nonprofits, but it's also, there is some value in it for B2B, but it's much harder for B2B. One thing about B2B and social media that I've learned just through my own experience, not just by listening to other influencers talk about it, is B2B is a harder strategy and execution on social media than B2C is. But it can be done. There's a lot of B2B companies out there doing social media really well, but believe me, they're spending 2-3 times the amount of money and resources on their social media because it's much more difficult. I would have included some examples today, but I didn't get to, I knew that I wanted to get through all my slides pretty quickly. I didn't want to get too far into the weeds, but if you guys want, I'd be happy to share some examples of B2B companies doing it well. LinkedIn, it's for business professionals. We all kind of know that. It's ideal for B2B and nonprofits, but it can work for B2C too. It's kind of like the flip-flop of Facebook. LinkedIn works much better for B2B, but B2C can be there, but it's a little bit more difficult for B2C to break into that ground. Instagram, if you have a younger audience, consider Instagram gold for you. I have done quite a bit of Instagram advertising and Instagram marketing over the last 3 to 4 years to know through experience, Instagram definitely reaches a younger audience and it's very effective. Businesses that are visual and have a story to tell. As we know, Instagram is much more visual. I'll share some examples later of some local businesses doing all these platforms really well, and the Instagram ones will kind of, when you see them, you'll understand like how the visuals tell a story. Instagram stories are a great way to connect with your audience. If anybody is using Instagram stories, huge thumbs up. If you're not, you want to be thinking about that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in an upcoming slide. But Instagram stories is a great way to connect with your audience in a different way. Some of these secondary channels, Pinterest is a much higher female audience. If you're an e-commerce platform, you should really consider Pinterest. If you're a blogger and you're making money through your blog, Pinterest can work there as well. Twitter is extremely complicated to explain because Twitter is super intense. Twitter is one of those platforms you got to be there, you got to be present. And it's for a lot of small businesses, it just doesn't work. It's just not an option for them. But I would say if the larger percentage of your audience is using Twitter, you might want to be considering using it. Perfect example of Twitter is right now NameSpark is involved with the Recovery Lancaster project. We're leading all the social media marketing and advertising for that project. And we decided early on that we wanted to use Twitter as a platform. My early hypothesis was it would be secondary. We would get a little bit of engagement. It would definitely provide some awareness of the initiative and drive some traffic. After 2 weeks, Twitter was number 2 out of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter as far as engagement and driving links to the site. It's since teetered off a little bit, but I mentioned that just to let you know, like in Lancaster County, which is where we were targeting, we did see some value in Twitter. It's just a little bit more intense. I do mention YouTube and Google My Business. YouTube is hot right now. We'll talk a little bit about that in a future slide. But YouTube is extremely, I mean, you got to be producing content pretty regularly for YouTube, and that's video content that can get pretty expensive. So I try not to put too much emphasis on YouTube in the early stages for small businesses, but it is something you want to keep an eye on and possibly use as your business grows. And Google My Business technically isn't a social media platform, but they do have a posting feature, which they recently added. And Google My Business is extremely important. So even though it's not a social platform, I always touch on social media or Google My Business in presentations like this because it's so important for all of you. And we'll talk a little bit more about Google My Business in a little bit. I put these graphs in here just to give you an idea of some of the key demographics of each of these social platforms. I don't have every single one in here, but I took 4 of the main ones. You can see here when you look at Facebook versus Instagram. Well, number one, it goes back to what I talked about at the beginning about Facebook. Everybody's on it. You got urban, you got suburban, you got rural, you got all the age groups, even 13 to 17. They say these kids aren't on Facebook. They're on there. They might not be using it like we are, but they're using it. A lot of them are using it for Messenger. And what I'm finding too about the younger generation, a lot of times they get out of high school or college and they drop Snapchat and they pick up Facebook. So there's just that, you can see it pretty much runs the gamut. All the income levels, they're all on there. Education, doesn't matter what your education is. Everybody's using Facebook. But then when you shift over to Instagram, you could see, look at the age difference for Instagram. You can see it definitely changes quite a bit. And even the location, if you're in a rural area, 21% using compared to 66% of Facebook. And I know this for a fact. I'm from the Lewistown area near State College. I have a client in State College. Our level of, or on the totem pole of importance as far as Instagram stories and Instagram story ads go for the State College area is much lower than that level of importance for Lancaster, knowing that there's more people in Lancaster that are using Instagram. You can even see the education level much lower as far as percentages for the different, for Instagram versus, and then here's LinkedIn and Pinterest. Again, LinkedIn, you can see age, not really a big factor. I would say more education, college, and urban and suburban versus rural. And then just looking at Pinterest, you can see the difference between the female and the male. And Pinterest does seem to fit into most of the education sectors. Income, not so much, more so the higher income, excuse me, using Pinterest. All right, so small businesses, nonprofits, success on social media. Like I said, I'm linking to all these. I could probably open them up on on the slide here, but I'll just go through them one by one and explain. Well, I'll open up a couple of the Instagram ones just so you can see some visuals. The Wolf Sanctuary of PA, full disclosure, they're one of my clients. They were actually my business's first client. When we started doing social media for the Wolf Sanctuary, they had around 20,000 Facebook likes, but they were pretty active on Facebook. They had an Instagram account. They had about 19 Instagram followers. 19 posts and about 1,000 Instagram followers. And I immediately looked at them and said, Instagram's a gold mine for them. Well, since starting to work with them, they're closing in on 20,000 Instagram followers, and their Facebook is nearing 70,000 likes. So simple nonprofit. And if you check it out, you'll see we don't get too complex with our content that we share. We mostly share photos of the wolves. And I will tell you, that's what people want. We've tried shifting strategies from time to time, and it's amazing. We put something out there and they're crickets. They want their pictures of their wolves, and that's what they want. So we've kind of stayed with that, and we've grown the audience, and we've seen success. And the other side of this, talking about dollars and cents, their private and public tours have increased like crazy since I started working with them. So they've definitely seen a return from the social media to the actual in-person tours. But they also sell a lot of online stuff. They sell adoptions. You can donate. They have merchandise that you can purchase online. So we often run ads where we do donate campaigns, adoption campaigns. We sell merchandise, different things like that. So they've seen a lot of dollars come from their social media. Funk's River Greenhouse is somebody near me. Check them out. They do a really good job. I feel like what they do is going back to what we talked about earlier, the education. They do a really good job of educating their Facebook followers of what it is that they're selling and how they're selling it. The Lancaster Balloon Festival, again, full disclosure, this is one of my clients, the United States Hot Air Balloon Team. But we actually have a Facebook page dedicated to just the Balloon Festival, which actually is not happening this year. But last year, perfect example of how Facebook can drive traffic. The year previous to last year, they had around 1,000 people come to the Balloon Festival. Last year, when we actually got aggressive on Facebook and created an event and actually did some advertising around the Balloon Festival, they saw over 6,000 people show up to the event. It was actually a problem because they didn't have enough of some things available for everybody, and it also created a massive traffic jam on the road into Birdenhand. But I mean, I told him, I said, we did our job. You know, we got the people to the event, and the Facebook, without the Facebook page, there's no way they would have had 6,000 people there. I can guarantee you that. Space, this is a local business in downtown Lancaster. I think just by looking at this, as soon as you open up this Instagram account, the colors pop. If you've ever been in Space, it's absolutely a really amazing store. He's got a lot of vintage and retro things that he sells throughout the store, all kinds of different types of products. But you could see like what he does on his Facebook is really amazing. And one of the things that's really got my attention about this owner and what he's doing is how he's kind of approached the whole coronavirus thing too. It's very showing empathy, but also showing how he's helped the community. And we'll talk a little bit more about helping the community in your social media. Lancaster County Community Foundation, you guys all probably know of the Community Foundation. It's hard not to now with the Extra Give and them being the wheels behind the Extra Give. But I really like what they're doing, what they do with their social media, especially their Instagram as well. Really informative, educational, really thoughtful, using a lot of empathy, and really dedicated to the nonprofits of Lancaster County. The Fridge, anybody who's a beer lover in the room, I'm one myself. The Fridge does an awesome job with their social media of just like creating that comfortable like feeling, and also letting people know what kind of beers they have on supply, because they offer a huge selection that some places in Lancaster you can't get. I've always been a fan of their social media and how, but they've also been very community minded and have done a lot of things to help the community. Here's an example of a fundraiser they did. So I feel like they mix a lot of the good content that we'll talk about in a little bit into their accounts. Oops, sorry. Harvest Moon Bagel Company. This is one. They do a good job of just like creating a, yeah, I got to get in there and get a bagel, you know, type of thing. And they've actually told me that their Instagram account drives a lot of business for them locally. Score, LinkedIn, Score. Honestly, I looked at several local, just local organizations, businesses, nonprofits who are using LinkedIn, and Score just does a really good job with their LinkedIn. I was really impressed. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. It's just one of those places where I can go and get a lot of good information, and also learn about some really good events that are coming up that I might be interested in. The YouTube, I just threw this in there just as an example because there's not a ton of them in Lancaster County, but Megan Fox is a local Mennonite woman who just does an awesome job with her YouTube account. She's up to 86, almost 90,000 subscribers. And she's one of the, we'll talk about influencer marketing in a little bit, but she's also one of these people that locally, if you want an influencer to help with your local brand, she's probably one of the first people that everybody reaches out to. I love it. I love the fact that she's very open about getting online and talking about things, but she's also a Mennonite, so who would expect that from a YouTube perspective? It's a perfect example of everybody can do YouTube. It's just a matter of having a strategy behind it, maybe having some dollars. I haven't talked to Megan personally, but I would imagine there's somebody internally who probably can do a lot of video editing, probably to help save her some dollars on that end. But I just wanted to throw that one out there as an example. Okay. New social media features and why they're important to your business. Now, some of these aren't going to apply to your business right now, but keep them in your back pocket. They may be something that you're going to want to look into in the next 6 months to a year. And for the folks on the call who are helping the small businesses, the mentors, some of these things you might want to pay attention to or learn a little bit more about. Instagram and Facebook stories. It's not new, but it's also early adopters jumped onto the Facebook and Instagram stories, and most of the general public has not. So I still treat it as a new hot item. If you don't, I would say start researching how to use them. I include a blog at the end of the presentation that will help you kind of dive in and learn what they are. And also start using them, even if it's just on your personal account. I know Kathleen Sullivan, her and I sat down a year ago and we went through, like I kind of gave her a tutorial on using them, but I said the best thing you could do is start to use them yourself. The first time I used it, no lie, I went to my daughter. At the time she was 14. I was like, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me? She showed me how to do it. Now I'm the type of person, I'm posting stories every day to Instagram and Facebook. I don't post that much to the news feed. That's another good point here. Keep in mind that now on Facebook and Instagram, there are two feeds. There's the news feed, which is what we typically all digest every morning or afternoon or evening. And that's where you scroll down and you look at all your friends' posts, you see the ads, and there's the stories feed. The stories feed has people in your audience who don't look at the news feed. So if you're only posting to your news feed, you're missing the people. You can be missing people in your audience who are only basically digesting the stories feed. So that's another reason why stories is important. But the best thing about stories is they only last for 24 hours. and you can have some fun with them. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be, you know, just a quick live broadcast with one of your favorite customers. It could be just a picture of something that happened today that was funny. It could be you walk around, if you have a bricks and mortar store, you walk around every day and maybe you take a picture of a different product and you feature it in your stories. And it has a lot of creative features where you can actually have some fun with it. I could sit here and talk about stories for 5 hours. The best thing I can tell you though is just go and start using it and understand it. Live broadcasts, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, they're all doing live broadcasts. It's huge. In live broadcasts, one of the things that I love about it from a small business standpoint is you don't need a lot of, all you need is a cell phone with the Business Manager app or the app for, you know, one of the social platforms, whichever one you're doing the live for, and maybe have a tripod. That way it's not shaking all over the place. And you can do a live broadcast. You can talk about, hey, this weekend we have this coming up, or, you know, think about like a venue like Tellus 360. Maybe they jump on and just do a quick plug for 30 seconds about a band that they have playing at the venue, or maybe you have a special open house this weekend. You could jump on and just talk about what your open house is. It's so easy. It could even be like valuable in terms of like right now with the time, you know, what's happening in your business. Hey, we're open, we're being safe, we have PPE products. When you come in, you have to do this, but we can guarantee your safety. Anything like that, just jumping on a live broadcast and being able to communicate to your audience pretty quickly. Another thing about lives, at least in terms of Instagram and Facebook, they won't say this, but they do give you a little bit of a boost in the algorithm, meaning that video, once you publish it to your page after you broadcasted live, you can share it to your page. You actually then you'll get a boost in the people who it reaches without actually having to put dollars behind it. Use of hashtags. Oops, sorry. Hashtags are really important on Instagram. LinkedIn has incorporated hashtags recently, so it's become important there. Be careful with your use of Facebook hashtags. It does look a little bit unprofessional. I kind of like usually say don't use hashtags on Facebook unless, like, 2 examples come top of mind. Us right now with Recovery Lancaster, we do put a Recovery Lancaster hashtag beside every post that we make to that Facebook page, because other folks are using Recovery Lancaster hashtag on Facebook. They're sharing like their PPE products that they get in. They might be sharing stories about how they're dealing with the coronavirus. And then that way it curates all that content. The another one would be the extra give. A lot of businesses and nonprofits will use extra give hashtag on Facebook, and then it curates all that. But just be careful with your use of hashtags on Facebook. But Instagram and LinkedIn, it's Instagram's huge. Like when you think in terms of like local hashtags that work for Instagram, you have Lancaster-Gram, which started as a photo contest, but it's just kind of gained steam. There's no photo contest anymore around it. People still use it. There's Discover Lancaster, Lancaster County, Lancaster, PA. If you look at those hashtags, they're all nearing 1 million posts. So people use them, people check them out. A lot of times people coming into the area, if tourists are part of your target audience, tourists will actually use those hashtags of you, and they may see your store or your restaurant or whatever it is you have. They may be able to find you that way, and you may get a new customer because of the hashtag use. New Facebook and Instagram shops features. So Facebook and Instagram recently rolled out a new shops feature, which means you can now create a shop on your Facebook and your Instagram page where you can sell directly products from both platforms. It's something that you need to do a little bit of research on. It is available. If you just type in Facebook shops in Google, you should be able to pull up some immediate information. They have some good resources, but it's a great new feature. I think the primary reason they rolled it out was because of coronavirus, and everybody was kind of hurting as far as product sales. But they did have the feature in the process. I think they might have just rolled it out a little bit earlier. So be sure to check that out and take advantage of it. Yeah, YouTube, again, YouTube is, YouTube continues to grow. Businesses continue to see success with YouTube, and YouTube has some value. I would say from a standpoint of a small business who's just getting off the ground, YouTube's probably not the place that you're going to start, but check it out. Look at some resources, learn how small businesses are using it. We'll talk about some content ideas in a little bit. We're going to talk about video. One way you could distribute your video is by putting it on YouTube. You can get it out there. YouTube has a search engine. It's one of the biggest search engines in the world. But it also allows you to then take that video and embed it on your website and other places. So YouTube has some real value, and it is hot right now. It continues to be increasingly more popular as the years go on, and businesses do see some success there, but it can be expensive because video production is not cheap. Social listening, I just mentioned this. This is probably one of those things I mentioned at the beginning of this slide you're not going to be doing right away, and that's okay. But in the future, tracking, analyzing, and responding to conversations about your business, it is something that's hot right now. It's a great way. The tool that I use, which is called Sprout Social, it's a paid tool. It has a social listening tool on it, and we do use it for some of our clients. And it is a great way for us to see conversations that are happening in real time on social media and interject ourselves and say, hey, we might, either we have that, we can help you there, or have you checked out this event that we're having, that kind of thing. So social listening has some real, it's one of those things that's early on in the stages of it, and there's not a lot of small businesses using it. So all the bigger businesses like Amazon and Walmart and Nike and the airlines and such, they're all using it right now, but it's a trickle down. So you're going to start to hear more about it for small businesses over the next couple years. And influencer marketing, which is basically endorsements and product placement from influencers and people and organizations who have a stated expert level of knowledge, or they have social influence in their field. Perfect example, what I showed you earlier, Megan Fox. Hey, full disclosure, U.S. hot air balloon team, we've considered reaching out to Megan, offering her a free balloon ride, YouTube video, bang. She has 90,000 subscribers. A lot of people are going to know about U.S. hot air balloon team after Megan does a video and takes a ride with us and gives us basically a review. So that is the easiest way to explain influencer marketing. I think a lot of people get confused with influencer marketing and think that it is, oh, I got to get Matthew McConaughey to talk about my product, or I have to get Lady Gaga, or I have to have Michael Jordan. No, that's not influencer marketing. Influencer marketing can be just somebody simple who's well known in your space. If you're a B2B company and you're selling maybe a sales enablement software, maybe it's somebody who works for a major publication and knows about sales enablement, and he does a video and talks about your software and gives you a thumbs up or something like that. From a local perspective, it could just be somebody like Megan Fox who can talk positive about your product. And I did want to mention too, you guys are more than welcome to, as we go along, just enter your questions into chat as you're thinking of them, and then we can address them when we're done. What are the expectations of your customers, and how can you meet those expectations on social media? So this is an important one. It's pretty quick, but it's one that I think every small business owner should understand. And it kind of goes back to the slide about the importance of social media. So the first thing I want to say is social media often is visited before your website. Just take a minute to let that sink in. There are people now, especially a younger audience, who go to your social media before they go to Google and they search for you. When they go to your social media, their expectation, number one, is that you have a professional presence and you have what they want. For the last 6 months, I've been dumbfounded at the amount of restaurants in Lancaster County who don't have a menu on their Facebook page. I go to their Facebook page, I'm interested in their business, and they don't have a menu. Wrong. This is the one thing that most small business owners especially from an older generation that I have to talk to, that I have to help them understand, is this social media is so real now that there are people searching for your business first and foremost on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, especially Facebook. Make sure that the platform is optimized. Make sure that your address, your website, your phone number, and all the other information is listed on your social platform. Each one allows you to provide a certain amount of information. For instance, with Instagram, there is an Instagram profile and an Instagram business profile. So it's almost like personal and business, just like with Facebook. A lot of businesses don't understand. You have to make sure that your Instagram profile is a business profile, and it has to be connected to your business, your Facebook business page to be able to do that. Once it is a business profile, then you can list your phone number, your directions to your business, your website link, all those different things. This one, Messenger, make sure you're monitoring it. Almost every client that I've had in the last 5 years, including before I started my business, who was over the age of 40, has fought me on this. You can't fight this. There are people now who will go to Facebook Messenger, and that's the first place they are going to contact you. This younger generation does not like to pick up the phone. They're not going to call you. They're going to reach out to you either on your contact form on your website or messenger platform on social media. Instagram has a messenger, Facebook has a messenger, Twitter has a messenger. And you have to be monitoring this, because you could be getting new business and losing it if you're not monitoring it. And you can't fight it. It's just something, it's just the way it is today. Just like how the younger generation would rather text you, the same thing applies here. Google My Business. Treat it like your website. It actually may be more important. There's actually data coming out as we speak that is starting to show that Google My Business, for some businesses, is the #1 place where people are finding them. They're not going to your website. They're going to your they're going to your Google My Business page, and they're actually finding your contact information. They're calling you from there. They're looking for directions to your business, and they may be going to your website from there too. But think about that. They're going to your website from Google My Business, not website to Google My Business. If you do not have a Google My Business page right now, and your business is already set up and live, I recommend that you make that a priority, setting that up and having that ready to go by the end of the month. You can now post a Google My Business page, which is really cool, which means they have an actual posting feature, just like Facebook, where you can go in and you can set up a post, and that post can run for up to 2 weeks, and then you have to switch it up, and they'll actually email you and let you know when your post is about to expire. But you can do a different post every day if you want. But keep in mind, what happens is when you show up on the search engine page on the right side, your Google My Business page shows up, that post will actually be in there. So for instance, with US Hot Air Balloon Team, anytime we have any sort of promotion, like maybe a certain percentage off private flights, or maybe we're doing a giveaway. We did a giveaway back in May for all healthcare professionals. We gave away hot air balloon rides to 6 different healthcare professionals. You can put that on your Google My Business page. Professional photography and use of video. Both of those are expectations of your client, of your business. If I go to, the easiest example of this is if I go to a Facebook page and like I look at the first 10 to 20 posts and they're all just text, it's like, Same thing if I go to an Instagram account and I go and I look at the Instagram business account and I look at the first 10 posts on your profile and it's all just like memes or like just stock photo and like, I don't know. Professional photo use of video, which we're going to get into in a minute. Okay, so we will right now actually. So what content moves the needle on social media? And how can you offer this content. First slide, use of photos and videos. Incorporating photos and videos into your content strategy is extremely important, especially in 2020. Visuals are what catch people's attention on the news feed and even on the Instagram stories feed. Video content is king. If you can create videos, I say make this a priority for your content strategy. When you look at social media and what people prefer, videos are number one. Now, understand videos are expensive, they're time consuming, and they're not always easy to come up with ideas. So when I say about a content strategy, think about some different ways that you can incorporate video into your content strategy, and then how can you get the video made. A perfect example of video we just recently did is Domain Lancaster is a co-working space in well, we have 3 locations, one in Lancaster City, one in East Pete, and one in Lidditz. I'm actually a member of the one in Lancaster City. And we did a video talking about the virtual office space that's available, which is a hot topic right now because a lot of businesses are looking for virtual office space because of the coronavirus. So we created 3 different videos telling a story about what the virtual office space is. We ran ads previously with static images talking about, with just a general virtual office space. And these videos are already outperforming the original ads. Invest in professional photography. I can't emphasize this enough. I think every small business owner should invest at least once a year in a professional photography session. There's a lot of benefits to doing this. Number one, you have a bank of photos that you can use throughout the year. You can use them for collateral, brochures. You can use it for that newspaper ad maybe you run once a year. You can use it for billboards. You can use it for your social media. If you create videos, you can incorporate photos into your videos. There's a lot of, but the thing in terms of professional photography, it definitely does, from a content standpoint and from social media, it does present more of a professionalism to your followers and your target audience on social media. So I think there is value in that. And the other side of this coin is there are a lot of professional photographers available now to you, especially in Lancaster County, and they might not be as expensive as you think. There's some really good ones that I know who can do a professional photography sitting for $500 to $1,000. Now think about that. That seems like a big investment, but you have that photography for the entire year. You might have 100 great photos that you can use in a lot of different ways throughout the year. So I always recommend invest in professional photography. And I don't even care how small your business is. Believe me, I can find ways and reasons why it will benefit you. Cell phone photos are acceptable, but the big but being, make sure they look like there was some thought put into them. Make sure that your cell phone actually has a good camera. Make sure that the pixels and the lighting and everything looks good. Just like everything else I've talked about, if you post bad photos or photos that look like they were taken with a 2001 Nokia phone, that can reflect negatively on your business. So these things, some of these things, this content that you can create for your social profiles can actually reflect negatively on you. Cell phone photos are actually, and want to be careful here, they are a great way to create content for social media. I've just seen enough small businesses creating content from bad cell phone videos that I felt like it was important to mention here. And cell phone photos should not be a substitute for professional photos. When we're doing ads, social media ads, I don't want a cell phone photo for that ad. I want a real professional photo. We'll talk a little bit about ads in a minute. Social media takeovers are fun and get your employees involved. Basically what that is, a perfect example is American Music Theater, who I work with. They have an original show in June, or in the summer, and in the Christmas. So every summer, every Christmas, we get all their actors, actresses, dancers, behind the scenes band, behind the scenes workers, and we do takeovers. And they literally go and they share the week of before what some of the things that they've done, some of the things that they do, some behind the scenes looks, and we do takeovers. So they're a fun way to create content, and again, it's something that's getting more popular as we move into 2020 and beyond. How-tos and tutorials. Pretty simple. Can you create how-tos with video? Just depends on what your business is. Tutorials are another great thing that you can do with your social media. I would say look up, you could do social media how-tos and tutorials on Google search, and you'll probably see enough ideas. This would be another one that would be great for YouTube, and then you could actually take some of those how-tos and tutorials and put them on your website, have like a how-tos or a tutorials page on your website. What are you doing in your community? How is your business helping? Your audience and your customers want to purchase from your business, from businesses that are community minded. If you attended my last SCORE presentation back in April when the coronavirus epidemic was really hitting hard and we were all quarantined, I really emphasized this. I think most small business owners are inclined not to get on social media and pat themselves on the back, and that's the wrong way to think. It's extremely important to me as your consumer to know that you're actually doing something. You're actually out in the community right now, and you're actually doing something to help with the current coronavirus situation, with the current racial injustices that are happening. You're helping with just a simple community bank, food bank. All these things are so important to us, your consumers. You need to talk about it. And again, I understand it's hard sometimes to pat ourselves on the back, but this is such an important part of social media content. And there's so many businesses who do not take advantage of this, and it's a huge loss on their part. So again, anytime you do anything within the community, make sure that you talk about it on social media. Curated content. I mean, honestly, New York Times writes a story about restaurants and it applies, perfect example. New York Times wrote an article last year about the local Lancaster City, especially ethnic restaurants. I'm an ethnic restaurant. I'm sharing that New York Times restaurant, especially if they featured me in that article. But not only thinking in terms of that, but also like what is happening in your area. Manheim Central wins the high school football championship, and you're located in Manheim. You actually have most of your customers from there. There's nothing wrong with just putting up a quick post saying congratulations to the football team. But curated content can include anything. Like a lot of businesses right now are sharing Recovery Lancaster posts because, hey, this Recovery Lancaster initiative is helping us as small businesses. I want everybody to know that they can get these free PPE kits. I already ordered mine. It's great, but I want other people to know. So thinking in terms of curated content, it's a great way. It's a great piece of content you can create. Facebook and Instagram Live, we talked about that. Try to start thinking about ways that you could use it, and feel free to reach out to me if you're looking for some brainstorming ideas for how to use Facebook and Instagram Live. Contests, just giving away things. It can be a great way to boost engagement, and it's a great way to give back to your audience. It could be giving away something of yours. It could be giving away a gift certificate to a local business that you partner with. And again, Instagram stories. I can't reiterate enough how important it is to be starting to get into that stories feed with your business, because there are people in that feed who could be potential customers of yours, and you need to be thinking about how to get in there and reach those folks. All right, so this is the last slide about content. I have a few follow-up slides. I want to leave some time for questions. It looks like we're at 9:30 right now. So I'm going to just go through this slide real quick. It's important though. Social advertising, algorithms are no longer our friends. So everybody in this room has worked with social media probably enough to know that nobody sees our stuff anymore. You know, unless we're the wolf sanctuary and we get 1,000 likes for every post that we share, you know, it's really hard to get up every morning and go through like maybe an hour of our time to come up with a really cool post idea for the day. And then we get up the next morning and we see nobody saw it. That's what I mean by algorithms are no longer friends. All these social platforms have become advertising platforms first. They are a business. They have to make money too. A lot of people blame them. I think the reason we're a little spoiled because early on it was so free and it was so easy and it was just like a free-for-all. But they do have to make money, and advertising is their #1 reason. So they're not going to give businesses the priority over your friends, you know, on the social platforms. But also keep in mind too that every person's on Facebook. They've got groups on Facebook now, the local bowling club's on Facebook, every nonprofit's on Facebook, every business is on Facebook. They just can't serve up everything to you that you like. They just can't. It's impossible. So this is where advertising comes into play. Social media ads work, and they are affordable. I've been doing this long enough where I could put my entire reputation on the line and tell you, if a social media ad campaign is strategically planned out and it's done in a way that is effectively planned out and there's some thought behind it, they work, they make money. What do people do today? We scroll through our phones. We don't watch the local news as much as we used to. A lot of the younger generation, they're not buying newspapers. They look at their phones. So that's where you want to be. You want to be in that news feed, on that stories feed. I also mentioned here that Lancaster, York, and Chester County, just so you know, over 70% of the residents in each of those counties are on Facebook and Instagram. They have accounts, and many of them are using it every day. So another reason why social media ads work in this area. Boosting posts are okay in some cases. I would imagine there's some of you out there who maybe use a lot of boosted posts, but be careful with boosted posts. I've talked to a lot of business owners in the last year who will come up to me and say after a presentation or just in general conversation, hey, I put a lot of money behind boosted posts and I'm not seeing much return. There's a reason for that. Check out this link. It's a limitation of the boost button. It gives 20 reasons why the boost actually isn't probably the best option. That being said, there are good reasons for boosting posts. And some of the reasons, like we see locally, maybe you have an event, you just want to increase the amount of people that see the event, and you could put the boost there. So I don't want to completely boo-hoo boosts, but there is a reason why there's a Facebook ads manager, and there's a reason why people like me exist to actually set up real ad campaigns, and there is an advantage to doing that. What should you advertise? Okay. So this goes kind of hand in hand with the advertising objectives. The advertising objectives on Facebook, the three that I would say are most important to everybody in this room are the brand awareness objective, the traffic objective, and the conversion objective. So brand awareness is basically just paying for eyeballs. I'm going to pay Facebook to get this ad out and get as many people to see it as possible. Traffic is sending the ad out and paying Facebook to get as many clicks on the ad to the landing page or the website that you want them to go to. Conversions is paying Facebook to put this ad out there and sell as many of these pocketbooks as I can, okay? So when you think about what should you advertise, hey, it just depends. You know, we could sit down and talk about it, but you know, do you need to create some brand awareness first? Perfect example is I'm a pizza shop. I'm coming into Lancaster City, and I need people to know that I exist. So I'm going to scour like maybe a 10-mile radius of Lancaster City and tell everybody this is a pizza shop. Or getting maybe a little bit more in the weeds, I'm a pizza shop. I sell vegetarian pizza only. Well, I'm going to target just vegetarians and still target all those people within a 10-mile radius of Lancaster City. But traffic and conversions gets a little bit deeper. I want more people to come to my website and learn about product X. So we're going to set up an ad, we're going to do a traffic campaign, and we're going to do product X. So when you think about what you should be advertising, that's kind of where we look at it from: brand awareness, traffic, or conversions. Audiences, one of the best things about Facebook ads that trumps anything that you can do in traditional media is the simple fact that I can set up all kinds of different audiences. I can set up audiences of people who have liked my page, who have engaged with my page. I can set up audiences retargeting people who went to my website. I could set up audiences retargeting people who have viewed a certain amount of time on my video. I could set up saved audiences. For instance, if I'm a Lexus dealer in Lancaster County and I want to target everybody in Lancaster County who owns a Honda, I can do that. So I can get that granular with my ads. So audiences are an extremely awesome way to reach a group of your target audience. You can get really fine-tuned with that. There's a free online training called Facebook Blueprint. I also list this in the resources section of the presentation. This is a great place to start learning how to use Facebook Ads Manager and all the different things that it can do. I have some final thoughts here, and I decided to put this in kind of at the last minute because I think it's important for all small businesses to have their expectations managed when they jump into social media marketing. So I want you to know that social media marketing and advertising is extremely time sensitive. For the Recovery Lancaster project, the first 3 weeks that we were doing work with them, we were averaging 100 hours a week just for the social media marketing and the social media advertising. 100 hours a week. So it's extremely time intensive, and you've got to keep that in mind. When a good strategy is defined and good content is being created, it can improve the bottom line of your business. When not given the attention and time that it needs, your social media could actually negatively reflect on your business. What I mean by that is setting up a Facebook page and going gung-ho on it for 3 months and then being like, oh, I don't have time for that anymore. And then letting it go. And then you have 6 or 7 potential customers that come to your Facebook page 6 months later, and they see that you haven't posted in 3 months. You kind of get where I'm going there. They may not even reach out to you. It can reflect negative. It's just like having a website that looks like it's from 1999 still. So just keep that in mind. It's hard to find a business or nonprofit where social media doesn't make sense. But it's not a level playing field. Some businesses will have to invest a lot more time and money to see success on social media. There are some businesses who will just decide, you know what, it's not a place for me. I can't afford to invest in it. I'm going to put that off for a couple years. That's okay. Just don't jump into it and then jump out of it, because once you're in with both feet, you're in. You can't jump out of it then. And then the final one, if you're ready to invest in social media marketing, understanding that it's time intensive and the investment isn't small. You know, if you're looking to pay somebody to help you, if you'd like to be a part of the process, you'd be looking at possibly as low as $500 a month. But if you are looking for a marketing specialist or a firm to lead that effort, you're looking at a minimum of $1,000 a month investment for social media marketing. And again, it goes back to the time intensiveness. And then also from my standpoint, it goes into the actual strategic development of it, actually putting some time and thought into it and doing something that's going to move the needle, as opposed to, oh yeah, I'll take over your Facebook page and just post whatever I feel like works for a couple times a week and charge you $500 a month. I don't play that game. So this again takes into consideration that there's going to be a lot of time and effort and thought that goes into creating the social media and actually managing it for you. I love this quote. You could buy attention through advertising. You could beg for attention from the media through your public relations. You can bug people one at a time to get their attention through sales, or you can earn attention by creating something interesting and valuable and then publishing it online for free, which is social media. I think that quote resonates really well, because again, if you do social media in a way that works and that is as engaging to your target audience and your audience on social media, you can see bigger and better value than anything you could do with advertising, PR, or sales. So keep that in mind. The other side of that coin is, I will say, with the algorithm challenges, I always like to caution businesses not to put too much time into the daily organic social media, the free stuff, because especially if it's falling upon deaf ears, because that can actually be a waste of your time. That's when you want to start thinking about doing some advertising to actually get your voice out, get your business brand out there amongst the target audience that you're looking for. These are just some social media resources that I put up here. Again, they're linked, so when I send this out, you guys should be able to click through to these. There's 2 social media management tools. They're basically ways that you can consolidate everything into one platform. You can schedule your posts from there. You can actually engage with everybody on all your different social platforms in one area. You can create reports in those areas. They're pretty cool. A couple blogs here that are more fine-tuned to social media. I do want to mention the later blog here. That's the one where they talk a lot about Instagram. And if you want to learn more about stories, that's the one to go to. Podcasts, again, there's a couple podcasts, if you like listening to podcasts, that are really good to listen to. And then there's these miscellaneous. LinkedIn for Small Businesses is a great resource. I think it's like a LinkedIn group. And John Loomer for Advanced Facebook Marketers. And then there's the Facebook Blueprint. So we're at 9:42. Looks like I left some time for questions, which is good. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I can't see the chat right now.
So Kris, there's a few questions on here. Why don't let me bring them up, and then we'll allow people to actually get into other questions that they might have. So one of the questions at the beginning said, with everything shifting to mobile and social media, what is the true need of having a separate website?
That's a good point. So the website still serves a purpose, especially for some industries. I know as a consumer, I would say my inclination is, if it's something that's a little bit more of a bigger investment for me, something that I want to do a little bit of research with, I'm going to a website. If it's just, hey, I want to know what this restaurant has and maybe see some cool photos of their food, then I might go to social media first. So I think the website still has much value. Nobody's saying that a website's going away. I think it's just that when you think about in terms of like, maybe back in 2010, the website was way up here, and social media and some of your other digital properties were way down here. They've kind of leveled the playing field. So they're all pretty important in the overall, especially your online properties for social media and websites. So I think there's still an important value in website, and there's also still that importance in making sure that the website looks professional and is mobile optimized, because if not, it can reflect negatively.
I think the mobile optimized is key to that question, so that you make sure your content works both ways.
Yep.
Another question that came up is there a way to store the hashtag you use in Instagram so you don't have to always look for the type and type them in when posting a new post?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we do is we actually create a Google Doc. So if you use Microsoft Word, you could use Microsoft Word. You could even use a spreadsheet. We just keep a running list of all the hashtags. We do hashtag research early on for our clients, and then we keep a running list, and then we usually just copy and paste those into the Instagram post. But there is also that idea of, sometimes there may be certain hashtags that we only use for certain posts, but we have those listed too, so that we can go in and pull those and add them. So I would say that's the best way to do it. Have it saved somewhere where you can just copy and paste.
Okay. What happened to Google Plus? Is the
Oh,
content lost?
yeah, it's gone. I think they had an opportunity for you to um, export all your content at one time, but it's, as far as I know, it's gone.
Okay. Can you recommend a multi-platform service to list on all social media platforms? I have used Buffer. Time is limited to be able to share content, so I need an easy way. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so Buffer is one of the tools like Hootsuite and Sprout Social that I mentioned in the resources section. Buffer, early on, I was a big fan of Buffer, but then with all these tools, what happens is they start off super cheap and then they raise their prices to the point where people can't afford them. And then they also have like some limitations. Um, Unfortunately, the way the platform later has a really nice social scheduling tool, which you can use, which is relatively cheap for Instagram. Facebook now has a tool, publishing tool within Facebook where you can schedule posts to Facebook and you can schedule posts to Instagram, which is really nice. But that doesn't solve all the other platforms. So if you're using Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, there are those, like I said, there's those softwares out there that you can use. Sprout Social is the one that I use. It is not cheap, but I will say it's almost like when you look at CRM, Salesforce has the entire market because they've created something that is as user-friendly as possible. Sprout Social's done the same thing. It's about $100 a month, but if you're thinking about time, sometimes the way I look at it is how much time are you spending scheduling these tools or scheduling these posts throughout the month, and how does that equate to $100 a month? And most small businesses will say, you know what, that actually is worth $100 a month to save my time.
Okay. Is there a website builder site that you recommend?
So obviously WordPress is the #1 website builder across the world. It's the most used, but WordPress requires more of developer. Squarespace definitely has some advantages. Squarespace has actually elevated themselves into a major player and a major competitor against WordPress. So I would say Squarespace is the one that has the best advantages from a build it yourself. I actually built one for a church, and I'm not a website designer, but I was able to do it, and it looks decent.
Is using Google Analytics valuable?
Yes, I did not get into Google Analytics, and I apologize, but Google Analytics is huge. Make sure you have a Google Analytics site or account set up. Get your web developer to add the code to your website so that you have it. And then honestly, I could do a 2-hour presentation just on Google Analytics, but make sure it's set up first and foremost, and then start to do some research into how to read the analytics and understand the analytics. But every single client that NameSpark works with, they have to have a Google Analytics account for us to work with them, because that is part of the monthly reporting that we give to them.
So Kris, you and I actually talked about this question earlier. Can you get rid of negative reviews on Google Business?
So you probably can't unless they're really scathing and you talk to Google themselves and see if they can remove them. The best thing you can do with reviews is to make sure that you stay on top of them, and make sure that you they give you the opportunity to comment back. One of my clients, who's a bed and breakfast, had a situation where a gentleman decided he wanted to stay at the bed and breakfast over Christmas, and they have specifically stated on their website and everything that they do not allow children there. And he tried to work his way into this situation, and she held her ground and said, I'm sorry. She even tried to find a bed and breakfast for them to stay at, and he ended up writing a couple scathing reviews. Well, she kept going back, and in the end she won, because there were actually other people who were commenting underneath it, thanking her for dispelling the untruths that this guy was giving. So I would say just being able to provide your thoughts and maybe even documenting what happened in that particular case, but sometimes just reaching out to them and saying, hey, I understand you're disappointed in the experience you had. can you please reach out to us? And maybe you give them an email. When I read that review later, I'm looking at that going, well, they did their part. Hopefully that guy or that woman reached out to them. And if they didn't, then that's kind of on them. So just being able to stay on top of them. The worst thing you can have is a scathing negative review and then you don't comment back on it, because that makes it look like you're the guilty party.
Okay. What about Facebook Pixel?
Oh, the pixel code. Yeah, so basically when I talked earlier about custom audiences, you can actually retarget people who come to your website. Basically what Facebook has is a pixel code on your Facebook Ads Manager account. You can copy and paste that code and put it on the back end of your website, just like in the coding, just like you would a Google Analytics snippet code. And then basically what happens from there then is you can retarget people who have come to your website. You can retarget anybody who comes to your website. You can retarget people who come to just a specific page. And then you can set up standard events where you can actually retarget people who actually purchased from your page or filled out a contact form, or even people who watched a video for a certain amount of time. And it's really easy. Once you get in the Ads Manager, you can find it. It says Facebook Pixel, and they even let you, there's an option to send an email it directly to your developer with all the instructions. Facebook will send that all to your developer.
Okay. So I'm going to open it up for questions, and I'm also going to post a very simple 2-question poll so we can get feedback that helps us keep enriching the content that we bring forward. So I'm going to bring up the poll, answer it, and in the meantime, open up your mic if you have additional question for Kris. Oops. Okay, does anybody have an additional question on social media that they would like to ask Kris about today's presentation? It's such a complex topic. There is so much to think about and learn about as you're getting social media set up for your businesses. Anybody have a success they'd like to share?
This interactive poll is pretty neat. I didn't know they had that feature on Zoom.
Yeah, it's a nice one. It allows you to get feedback that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
This is Susan Lowell from Twisted Vine Beer Company. I just have a question about, there's a lot of people out there trying to sell you services for your website, for SEO, for security, for different things. So what are the things that we need to be careful of and watch for so that we aren't, not taken advantage of, especially for those of us that are not very savvy?
Yeah, it's a great question, because there are, like with any industry, there are some snake oil salesmen out there. And I think the best thing to do is, number one, try to stay local, and also ask for testimonials or recommendations from the companies, like especially trying to maybe find people that who have some background to them. It's extremely difficult for me to give you like a specific plan of attack, because a lot of them, they have an amazing sales process, and they really build trust with you in the early stages. It's not until it's too late that you realize that it was all smoke and mirrors. So going with somebody local who has a good reputation, even looking at their online reviews and asking them, hey, is there anybody I can speak to specifically who you've done business for? I also like it when website designers and SEO specialists actually have case studies, real solid case studies of things that they've done that they can point to, as opposed to just saying, hey, yeah, we'll get you at the top of Google, which isn't even a reality to begin with, or just saying whatever they think that you want to hear. So I'd say that's probably the number one thing I would recommend.
Good. Okay. Well, looks like we got the polling completed, and if there aren't any further questions, what we will be doing after today's presentation is we will make the video of the presentation available on our YouTube channel, and we will send a copy. I've got all of your email addresses from your registration, and so we'll send a link to the presentation Kris shared today. And then if you have other questions, you'll have contact information on how to address them. Okay? So thank you all for participating today, and we wish you good luck in optimizing your social media platforms in support of driving your businesses. Take care all.